Hello.
Don't be shy. Please sit closer to us.
It's a depressing fact. Young women are still being sexually assaulted in staggering numbers.
Whenever men are hurting, they tend to hurt someone else.
At this workshop in Toronto, these boys are here to learn how to change that. They're here to learn how not to be a toxic male.
Can someone help me read out this scenario?
Your friend Mike has feelings for a girl in his school. He asked her out.
In this scenario, boy asks girl out, girl says no, boy lashes out by spreading false rumors about her online.
All right, let's just stop here. What is the problem with this scenario? Please go
Well, Mike didn't get the girl he wanted.
Yeah.
And now is ruining her reputation.
Odds are these teens will face romantic rejection at some point in their lives.
Anyone else? How can you intervene here? Please.
And it's not gonna get you anywhere. It's just gonna.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, rejection is part of life.
Talking about tough emotions, it's part of the solution, and experts say this is where it starts. How does teaching a man emotional literacy help end violence against women?
First, it's about encouraging men to acknowledge that emotions are healthy. When we're able to deal with our conflicts and our stresses in healthy ways, they're less likely to use violence towards their partners.
Intervene in situations of violence.
Humberto Carollo's organization, White Ribbon Canada, developed this workshop.
By no means we're saying that these conversations are easy, right?
White Ribbon is a global movement of men and boys working to end gender-based violence. Violence against young women, it's always been high and it hasn't budged. Why do you think that number is as high as it is and has stayed that high?
Yeah, it's because we haven't yet done what is needed to be done. I think we're very quick to say you must respect women, you should never use violence, you should always look for consent. But young people need to understand how that really works in real life.
It might seem like an obvious lesson. It's not, because the statistics haven't changed in decades, and the impact is devastating.
It was just so traumatic and painful that it just made me not want to continue living.
Nearly half of all sexual assaults are committed against young women aged 15 to 24. Their perpetrators are usually young men they know.
He sexually assaulted me, emotionally abused me, and physically abused me. It was crushing, and this was my first semester of university.
We can't identify this young woman because her case is before the courts. She says her former boyfriend abused her multiple times. She hates that her story is such a common one.
It just makes me so angry.
What makes you angry?
That so many girls have to go through this. Like, at this point, it seems like a rite of passage or something like that, that it's happened to so many women. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think that this issue needs to be rebranded as not just a woman's issue, but a man's issue.
Rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up, rise unafraid.
The demand for male accountability isn't new, but its echoes are getting louder. Last fall at Western University, a call for action after social media reports circulated of 30 or more sexual assaults at the start of the school year.
It's just so disheartening, like going through such a traumatic event like that.
Haley Jacoby and Sarah Wallace weren't among those victims, but they were the first young woman we met that day, and they told us they'd both been sexually assaulted too.
It makes me feel really defeated.
No one should go through what I went through. No one should go through what Haley went through. This is going to stay with us for the rest of our lives, and that doesn't seem fair.
Finger pointing and just demonizing folks who've committed sexual assault doesn't actually prevent it.
Annalise Trudell runs ANOVA, an organization in London, Ontario that supports survivors of gender-based violence. Trudell also works with perpetrators.
It's between 14 and 31%, give or take, of undergraduate men will commit a sexual assault during the course of them being undergraduates. And that should make a whole heck of a lot of us really defensive when we hear that, because we don't want to think of these perpetrators and folks doing this violence as being our brothers, our friends, our colleagues, our partners. But that is, in effect, who it is.
Trudell says research has found most young men do understand what consent means.
So if they know better, why don't they do better?
But what I think we've done wrong is that we've thought of it as being a lack of knowledge. We haven't actually understood that, of course it's not knowledge, we're dealing with values. We're dealing with values that need some deep-rooted shifting. You know, it's not that men don't understand what consent is, it's that there's something wrong with a certain kind of masculinity and a certain kind of masculine culture. That's where we need to drive the change.
Changing values may seem like a huge, abstract task, but this young woman's story is why it matters.
What do you hope will change?
There needs to be a bigger effort among male role models in schools, in businesses, in large companies to take a stance against this.
Her case is going to trial later this month. Whatever the outcome, she wants men to step up and own up.
And I think it starts there, not with women. We've done enough.
If you could please share one thing that you learned today.
I think one thing I learned today is like emotional maturity can affect a lot of things.
Meaningful change, experts say, starts with intentional conversations. For many here, it's the first time they're talking like this.
You learn about ways that people can be toxic and how to deal with emotions and all that stuff, so you can learn to avoid certain bad things.
If when I learn it, then I can basically sort of understand it better and listen to other people more.
We can talk to our families better, our friends. You know, us being able to like learn to, I guess, stand up and call our friends out for doing things that like aren't okay.
Anybody watching this might say, that all sounds like good work. It sounds like slow work and complicated work. And how do we solve this now? What's the answer to that?
The answer is scale, is to put in place the resources necessary to be able to do this work in every single school, in every single community center, to engage parents at a large scale, to equip them with the necessary information and tools so they can too be having these conversations as early as possible.
And while the scale isn't there yet, the goal is to get there, one conversation at a time.
That's a really good point.
Joanna Rumiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.